commence shortly. Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Tristan Rallings, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Corporal Jeanette McNeely. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. If you are able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of the more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths of floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Driver Albert Henry Davey. Albert Davey was born on the 20th of June 1888 in Laura, South Australia, the son of Joseph and Mary Davey. He grew up in Laura, where he attended the local public school. After leaving school, he worked as a farmer before moving to Kalgoorlie, where after a 5-year apprenticeship, he qualified as a boilermaker. By the time the First World War began, Davey had returned to South Australia and was at Goodwood and working in his trade. He was among the initial rush of South Australians who made their way to Morphettville Racecourse to join the 10th Battalion. He enlisted on the 19th of August 1914 and was allocated to H Company. The Australian battalions were initially raised on an old English system of 8 companies. The battalions would recognise, whilst in Egypt, to the British 4-company model. After the initial training period, Davey embarked with his battalion on the 20th of October from Outer Harbour, Adelaide, on board the transport ship Ascanius. 5 days later, the ship dropped anchor off Fremantle. Over the next week, the men were allowed to disembark, conduct route marches and enjoy limited leave. After embarking the 11th Battalion, Ascanius departed Fremantle on the 31st of October. It would be an eventful journey to Egypt. During the voyage, HMAS Sydney destroyed the German raider Emden, and Ascanius collided with another transport ship but remained seaworthy. Davey was hospitalised for several days on board after contracting an illness in Fremantle. The 10th Battalion disembarked at Alexandria in early December and were involved in constructing the AIF camp at Mina before several months of training in the Egyptian desert. At the beginning of March 1915, the 10th Battalion embarked from Alexandria on board the transport ship Ionian, which the men christened One Onion, bound for Lemnos and then Gallipoli. It appears from Davey's service records that he was not with the battalion when it sailed, but rather remained in Egypt, most likely with the 10th Battalion's transport section. The 10th Battalion suffered heavy casualties during the landing at Gallipoli and in the following week whilst trying to consolidate hard-won positions. Reinforcements were soon called and Davey was added to the 3rd reinforcement to the 10th Battalion and sent to Gallipoli, arriving on the 7th of May. On the 19th of May, Ottoman infantry launched a major frontal assault on Anzac positions, trying to drive the invaders back into the sea. However, it was the Ottoman infantry that suffered heavily and were forced to retire. Australian and New Zealand infantrymen, supported by artillery and naval gunfire, caused uncountable casualties to their attackers, forcing the attack to be halted. The Australians and New Zealanders suffered 160 dead and 468 wounded. Of the 160 dead, the 10th Battalion lost 13 men. Numbered among these was Davey. He was 26 years old. He was initially laid to rest alongside his comrades in Divisional Cemetery, Shrapnel Gully, but they were all later reinterred in Shrapnel Gully Cemetery. Davey's parents added the following epitaph to his headstone: in memory of the loved son of Mr. and Mrs. Davey of Pulpieri. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, amongst more than 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Driver Albert Henry Davey, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please be upstanding for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.